Soul Sacrifice has been a hopeful title for many. In a drought of full-fledged Vita games, we've been begging for something to play, and while Soul Sacrifice is not by any means going to move systems, it is definitely a title you need to consider if you happen to own a PlayStation Vita, and for very good reason. In short, Soul Sacrifice is a lot like Monster Hunter. That right there will let you know what you're getting into. You're essentially slaying monsters over and over again in different enclosed environments. What fuels you is the standard RPG affairs of leveling up and perfecting each stage, but these are just the norm, and luckily Soul Sacrifice takes a different approach to these elements in this genre. To start off, there's an interesting story. Right from the start, the world is in disorder, ruled by a man named Magusar. You are one of his prisoners. That's until you stumble upon Librum, a talking book that holds the history of Magusar. You must read Librum, and relive past battles, leveling yourself up and encountering more difficult battles as the book progresses. What's interesting is you're given the option to fight the end boss anytime you like, but reading Librum and powering up is probably a wiser option. Between the battle pages is where the story unfolds through narration, which is eerily dark and intriguing.
We heard a cackle from afar. 7 days until the end of the world.
Fighting monsters is what you'll be doing the most of in Soul Sacrifice though, and it really opens up when you're given all the variables. When a monster has been slayed, you're given the option to save it or sacrifice it. Doing whichever adds to your life or magic levels respectively. You can choose to build your defense or your offense, and there is a limit. You can't max out these stats. Between the two, you can only level up 100 times. Then there's actual attacks, which are called offerings. Offerings come in many varieties, like fire, ice, poison, some are weapons, some are straight up magic, some have long range, some have short. You can customize your offering loadout pretty much anytime you want, by hotkeying the ones you want to whichever face buttons. You're able to enter a battle with up to 6 offerings. Pressing R will access your second set in battle. With all this in mind, you can also fuse or boost your offerings, opening even more variables to you. But the options don't stop there. You can add boosts to your character too. These are called sigils. Then there's Black Rights, which are super powerful attacks that will really aid you out in battle. There's also allies you can swap in and out for battle. But what really brings all of these elements together is the consequences that come with them. Pretty much everything has a consequence to it. If you use a Black Right, you'll be hit with a severe ailment, like your defense being cut in half. This will be stuck with you into newer battles unless you pay a fee in Lacrima. Lacrima is the Tears of Librum, and there's only so much of that to go around periodically throughout the game. Even your regular offerings have a limit. If you use up an attack too much in battle, it'll break. Even in newer battles, it's still broken. You'll have to fork over more Lacrima. This all creates a very focused play session. This isn't mindless wailing on a boss until he's down. This is watching very carefully what you use and when you use it. While all this does mean you're focused, it highlights one issue. You're not focusing on much. The game, without a doubt, is challenging, which is definitely a plus, but Soul Sacrifice lacks variety in environments and monsters. You'll be fighting the same 4 monsters throughout the entire game. They only get a slight redesign as the game progresses. This is the same with bosses, and while there is more than 4 bosses, you face them so often that they become too predictable. You'll know how to take care of them halfway through the game. With so many levels to play, it begs the question of why I'm beating up the same predictable monsters and bosses. At that point, the standard RPG elements set in again. Oh, I'm just grinding my levels. That may or may not be a bad thing to you. Another noticeable problem here is the controls. They're unresponsive at certain moments, and locking on enemies can fail you in a time of needed precision. These are no doubt some annoying moments. Whether you're playing alone or with friends, Soul Sacrifice has you covered. You can jump into ad hoc for local multiplayer, or you can play online. There's a pretty good lobby system and it gets the job done. While it doesn't allow direct chat, it has preset text options to send for easy, fast communication. Playing with other players is definitely fun, and it really helps out when you're stuck on a tough page. There's also some near functionality here, allowing you to send your offerings to friends or picking up some from them. Soul Sacrifice is a really good game. It does a lot of things to make the standard action RPG more compelling, and that's exactly what this kind of genre needs. It's just a shame that these great mechanics and options are crippled by repetition in enemies. There's definitely problems here, but the good outweighs the bad. Not by much, but it does. With that said, Soul Sacrifice is just on the cusp of being something much more.